welcome to far, far too early in the morning. We did end up pushing things back by an hour just because we needed more than 3 hours of sleep. We were actually set up near the pool, but next to the duck pond. Today is when this heat wave kind of goes into full swing. It's saying it's over 100 for the next week, basically. And we are off again. Like I said, we were intending to get going about 30-40 minutes earlier, but there's a limit to how little sleep we can run on. As is, I think we've only had about 4 tops. Like I've been saying the last couple of days, this is basically following US Highway 56. That's what you can hear off in the background. At the moment, everything's kind of focused on keeping up our pace, making good decisions. Obviously, if the heat gets too much, we're not going to push it into stupid levels. Beyond that, we don't want to take an easier day when the heat's only like 100 and then it gets to 115 and we're like, oh damn, we really shouldn't have taken that day off. This was a really nice place to camp. We would have appreciated the shower and everything, except we did a little over 30 miles to get in here. We were set up around midnight, had to eat. All we cared about was closing our eyes for a couple hours. So our plan for today, we're doing our morning push to try and get to the town of Carfield. There's a park or some sort of shade there, so we're hoping to get there by 11 or 12 in the morning. We then have the hot period from then until about 6. I don't think we got going until 6:30 yesterday. And then we'll push on and try and make our 25. The next town after Carfield is Kinsley. We have a few too many miles to really get there today. So what we think is breaking Carfield, hike until, dark 30, and then camp somewhere outside of Kinsley, just stealth camping along the fields. And then we go in tomorrow morning, we get our package when the post office opens at 8 or 9 in the morning. It has new shoes and probably more beans, and then we'll continue on. It is kind of a bummer because somebody offered us a night in a hotel room, and both of us would be very pro that, but we also didn't want to waste their money by basically getting into a hotel at midnight and then having to be up and out at 4 or 5 in the morning. Like I was telling Jen this morning, if we have one day that really spikes, like they were predicting a potential getting up to like heat index of 115, I would not be incredibly adverse to a 0 day right now. I just want to make sure we don't take a 0 day on one of the moderately bad days and then get stuck having to take an additional one on an actual bad day. And so another city that we never saw the sun up inside. That's okay, we can come back to Larned and it'll be like we've never been here. Larned, whatever. If you're wondering how I'm managing videos through here, since I usually talk about needing time in the morning to edit them, some of it I've been editing while walking, I've been uploading while walking. Some of it is I'm just getting behind, because like this morning, I threw everything into a iMovie project. I didn't even have time or willpower for a triage edit though. I did a basic triage edit yesterday during our siesta, but you're lying there, everything is uncomfortably warm. You're editing a video together, showing things uncomfortably warm. It doesn't have quite the same sense of fun I normally get putting these together. So I do have a few days buffer, but they're gonna start piling up pretty quick here. The guy at the police station last night was talking to us because I'm pretty sure we were, the most interesting thing happening in town around midnight. And it was funny, he said that they used to get a lot more travelers coming through, so that program of being able to stay in the park got a lot more use, but these days they don't see that many. So he told us to make sure and tell everybody about the town and get them to come and stay. I'm kind of assuming, based on what we saw at Great Bend, that it's mostly bike packing, not hiking. There isn't that many people that even try the ADT. And when you're getting towards the the majority of people who start any through hike fail, quit, etc. So you're going to see more comments and more people doing it at either end and less in the middle. I kind of figure ADT is always only ever going to be kind of a niche trail. I know there's people doing it because they're trying to do some sort of cause, and it seems like it's easier because, oh, you don't have to worry about scary wilderness and bears and everything. And you got people like me who, okay, did the Triple Crown, and you want to push yourself, do something different. But as I get lots and lots of comments about on the videos, you know, this isn't for everybody. All the road walking, the challenges, camping, etc., etc. There is at least some hope. I did get the isolated thunderstorm warning yesterday. Usually means there's moisture in the area and there's just the potential for thunderstorms to form. And if that starts happening, maybe it knocks the heat down. We never know. Forecast goes all over the place, but we have to at least have workable plans based on what's telling us and then make good decisions as things change. I keep telling Jen we can always find shade in random trees along the roads. The reality is that is a bit challenging out here. We go for long stretches with nothing. Sometimes the vegetation's too dense underneath. And we really need something we can get in the middle of just because the sun's directly ahead or directly above in the middle of the day. So if we're like on the outside of an outbuilding, we're just going to get fried. We have seen options. It has, at least so far, just worked out that we had stretch goals where we could aim for something like Pawnee Rock or Carfield. This whole trip just makes me appreciate how straightforward the old days on the PCT, CDT, etc. were. Just having a hell of a time with my feet the last couple of days. Seems like no matter what I do, I'm getting a little gravel and grit inside my shoes despite my gaiters and everything. Might just be they're pretty worn out, ready to be replaced. But like this morning, the grit is basically sawing across the arch of my foot, so I keep having to stop and readjust. And it's kind of problematic. I've gotten some pretty severe arch issues before. It set me back for days. Unfortunately, I've been going a little slower, so it might get warm before we make it to Carfield. So Jen likes to ignore me, but I have this thing where I'm convinced darn toughs are not nearly as durable as other options. And her darn toughs are shot. I mean, granted, her feet are pretty shot also. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Darn tough guarantee, and you will need it. That was why I actually switched to 0.6 socks. They don't have the warranty. They're a little more expensive, I think, but at least for me, they hold up a lot better. And that's the most important thing because I kept wearing them out in the middle of nowhere. And if you're in the middle of nowhere, you can't exchange the socks anyway. You're not going to carry them for another, 100 miles just so you can maybe exchange them.
Remember that time you found the trail provided socks for you, though, on the way from VBR?
Yeah, basically I was rotating socks, and so similar to the underwear issue yesterday, all the socks wore out at once. Just as we were going into the Sierra for the big 10-day, 200-mile carry. And all of a sudden, I'm having to wear my socks upside down just trying to get anything, just get another 10 miles down the trail. And we actually found, some old socks somebody had left at a water crossing. It was right after that French woman and her daughter were smacking each other in small tops, and we're walking up, and it's like, oh. They were covered in mosquitoes, and they were fixing this by flapping each other. And I'm looking for the camera crew going, I think I've heard of this sort of thing. Are we in Chatsworth? Foreign capital of California, the U.S.? Which brings me to a story about how one time somebody canceled out of my trip because the porn double of Barack Obama was murdered with a samurai sword. We do have storms in the area, but they're missing us by a bit. And sadly, no funnels. see no ruts. I really get curious on certain things like this. I mean, that doesn't look like a planted hedgerow or anything. It just looks like they left some cluster of trees and plants alone, all in the middle of a huge field. Yeah, it started feeling a bit more cattle heavy again. There are still crops, but it seems to be giving away more and more to cows. We're also starting to see windmills and solar wells, and in fact, looks like we may have some of those as a water source in the next couple of days. "12:30, made it to Carfield, just a bit behind schedule. It is getting bloody warm, so we're going to go over to this park and set up in the shade. And this is our siesta spot. They drove out from, they actually live north of the last city, Larned, and brought us cold stuff and a few resupplies, which is good. They said their car was reading 107 on the way in, and Blondie is not feeling overly wonderful.
So great.
Yeah, it's a really good sign when you can't even stand by the car to talk to the trail angels because you're feeling so. Part of the problem has been, you can no doubt hear the wind in the background. This has been going non-stop. It's like 25 mile an hour constant, and it's hot. They were actually saying that they refer to it as the gates of hell opening this time of year. Over 100, massive wind. It was drying us out. So Jen got kind of loopy, like literally almost looked like she was going to pass out when we were standing over there talking to the trail angel. So we came back, laid down. It's now after 8. She's feeling better. It was just the temperature. She tends to go, oh, temperature's not that bad, and then, yeah. So we're changing plans a little bit. Instead of trying to push on with a full like 25 today, we're going to get a room in the next town tomorrow. That's the geographic halfway point across the U.S. There is a B&B. The nice trail angels actually got us a room, and we're pretty beat up at the moment. We were actually leaning towards just staying here, especially when Jen was feeling really bad, and then just hiking the entire 18 miles into the next town tomorrow morning. You know, wake up at 3 or something like that. But Jen's rallied and now wants to at least try and get a few miles in. So there is a stealth camp somebody used about 7 miles in. We're gonna try and make that. This is kind of loud here with all the traffic noise and everything. And no bathroom. So normally we would have been able to get water here. That co-op though is not open on a Sunday, so we were kind of on our own. And they have all these pumps in this park. There's like 5 pumps. They're all rusted and not working. So it is 8:38. We are setting out somewhat reluctantly. I was ready to lie down and nap. But Blondie's feeling better. She's almost coherent again, kind of. So while we have been relatively remote, everybody just keeps saying we're getting more remote. Even the people that live out here are like, oh yeah, you're gonna go out there, there ain't much. But we do have some promising news, which is we will be leaving behind the oil and natural gas stench and going back into wind farm territory, which are basically just giant fans. And I mean, we are gaining several feet a day going west, so I think it's just gonna get better. Taters, on the other hand, pretty sure we're gonna die. She's just like, the heat's bad, where she was a bit wiggy for the last 5 hours or so, but she's okay now. She misidentified a puppy as a hippo at one point. I was like, she doesn't look so good, so I pulled up a cute picture of a puppy and I went, will this help? And then she was like, and then she popped up like 10 minutes later talking about the hippo I showed her. So yeah, it's
Been a
good.
little bit of a rough day. I was a bit surprised just how crappy I was feeling earlier. Even though I know anytime over 100, that's
I feel crappy all the
dangerous
time.
levels
So
heat. But you know, we got into the shade. We were resting, kind of quasi-napping, and still, by the end of that 6 hours of intense heat, I was just feeling horrible, weak, faint, nauseous.
quasi-napping. Let's examine that. It was like 100+ degrees outside. You know those hot dogs at the AM/PM that just kind of roll around in the heat, getting sticky, getting lots of hair and bird poop on them? That was what we were doing.
Were you thinking about that the whole time, or did you just come up with that?
Just came up with that. My mouth opens, things come out. I don't know what's going to happen. It's an adventure we go on together. Don't have to worry about getting lost in Kansas. Just aim for the nearest grain silo.
The one thing that's really helping us out here is that the temperature does drop quite a lot at night. So it got to be about 7:30 or so, and I was instantly feeling much better. And here it is 8:30, and we're setting out for round 2.
I want to instantly feel better. No, we're only going a short distance.
We did get also more good news about our route today. One of the folks that helped us out today had done bird studies in a lot of the area we're going to be going through to inform the mitigation efforts when they put in the windmills. And so he says, I've driven every one of those roads, I know them well, and I approve of your route. They're taking you on nice roads.
I think he was more saying it was the best of a bad situation. It's like, well, if you're going to get cancer, that's the cancer you probably want to get. And if you're thinking this looks like it would be great for dispersed camping, it would be, except we're in Kansas, where it's like 97% private land. So only if you're willing to trespass, basically. Now, some of the signs are clearly just talking about hunting, but it's not like we can find anybody out here to go, hey, is it okay if we camp here? We've heard varying stories from locals as far as, oh yeah, you could probably just set up anywhere and it'd be fine. To others going, oh no, you get like crazy landowners that feel like they own the ditch in the side of the road. Per the trail angels that came out and were chatting with us, they one of them had spent a ton of time out in these little remote areas, and per him, there's usually one psychopath in every little town. This road's been pretty quiet. We only saw one house, but as usual, everything is fenced. This was marked by another hiker as a potential stealth site, and so this is what we are using because we are beat. We have not been getting full night's sleep, so we've been doing little 3 or 4 hour things, and the midday naps are not nearly as effective, so yeah.
That evening hike was really enjoyable. We're on this remote sandy road out by the Arkansas River, goes through some pasture land. We had really nice views of the stars, the Milky Way, and a lightning show going off in the distance. But we are both really exhausted. 3 days of this weird sleep schedule and managing the heat has us looking forward to a break tomorrow in Kinsley. We got just about 11 miles to do into town. Plan is to do that early in the morning, and then we have a B&B to escape the heat and get a full night's sleep for once. Here's our camp. It is on the side of the road behind a petroleum pipeline. Home sweet home for the night.